Welcome to DIYEasyCrafts.com, how to make a carved wood Frankenstein Halloween decoration. Now these decorations can be wall hung, hung on a front door, or you could use the same design to make a variety of different Halloween style projects. It's a very easy do-it-yourself project. Only tools you need is a jigsaw, a dremel grinder, and if you have it, a sander or a angle grinder. Now we're going to start off by trying to draw the Frankenstein. I actually went online, found a Frankenstein face that I kind of liked, and I just experimented drawing with it a couple of times, and then drew it out on a piece of wood that was the size of the decoration that I wanted to make. You don't have to have any artistic ability here. You could certainly trace something or print something out online. Anyway, this is the design I came up with. I blackened the pencil just so that you could see it a little bit better on this video. When you're making it, don't use the black magic marker, just the pencil is fine. We're real simple. We're going to cut out the outside with the jigsaw. And this is very simple. I'm just using 1-inch pine from Home Depot. Now at the bottom of the face, you can see that the bolts are sticking out. I originally wanted to try to make those bolts out of the wood, and I cut them out with the jigsaw. But later on in the process, they actually broke off. So I actually installed real bolts later on. I did cut out the nose and the eyebrows on a separate piece of wood. Instead of trying to carve it out of a real thick piece of wood, I'm going to do some forming on this and smooth it all out, and I'm going to glue it into place on the face, and this will give it some 3-dimension. So the next tool is going to be the angle grinder. I'm using a flap sanding wheel, which is just a very aggressive sanding wheel. I'm using this to smooth out all of the rough edges. I'm going to do it on the nose and the eyebrows, and I'm going to kind of shape the nose with this disc grinder, and you can just keep fitting it, seeing how it looks. I'm going to use the same disc grinder to smooth out all of the rough edges on the actual face. I'm going to go around the whole outside diameter, and I'm going to use that same sander in order to smooth out or curve all of the corners of the face and the head. Right here, what I'm doing is I'm just carving down each ear just to give it, again, a little bit of dimension, so the ears are set back a little bit from the front of the face. I think drawing the actual Frankenstein face was probably the hardest part of the whole project. I'm also going to add a little bit of dimension to the Frankenstein's cheeks with that same angle grinder. So I'm just cutting in right along those cheek lines. And don't worry if these are rough cuts. We're not supposed to be smooth now. I'm going to go back with a oscillating sander and kind of smooth over all of these rough edges. But we're going to just remove as much wood as we can with this angle grinder, just because of how quickly it removes the material. It just makes it much easier. And I'm also going to make a groove for Frankenstein's mouth. I'm going to add some additional detail with a dremel grinder, but right now I'm just going to groove with the angle grinder. As I mentioned before, I then went to an oscillating sander. I started with an 80 grit, basically sanded all of the edges, the entire face, got all of the rough groin marks from that angle grinder smoothed out, and then I did polish it up with a 220 grit. And the sanding doesn't take long at all. It's an 80 grit and a 220 grit. Now this is the additional details I added. On a Dremel grinder, I just have a cutoff wheel, and I'm just making lines to simulate the hair on Frankenstein's head. I'm going to use that same tool to add some similar lines onto the eyebrows. I'm going to add some lines on his forehead, some age lines, and then also I'm going to make the mouth a little bit more distinct, and just to cut two nice deep grooves for the upper lip and the lower lip. And then I'm also going to do the suture lines. The Dremel tool is just really nice for working with woods. There's so many different little attachments that you can get for it. I'm going to use that same cutoff wheel to now make the hair lines on the eyebrows. And then I also use the Dremel to cut out the eyes, leaving the pupils full height. I kind of cut out the whites of the eyes, or ground down the whites of the eyes. You don't really have to do that. We are going to paint the eyes white and black. I don't really think that adding or cutting that out really made it that much better. The one thing that I did want to do, I didn't want to paint Frankenstein's face because you lose all of the character of the wood. So I actually mixed up a little bit of my own green wood stain. And I did that just by taking some natural colored stain, and I poured some latex green paint into it. And then I added a little bit more stain until I got the right color or transparency that I was looking for. And then I just basically painted it right onto Frankenstein's face. You let it sit or soak in for a few minutes, and then wipe off the excess with a paper towel or a rag, just like you would with any stain. I also stained the nose and the eyebrows, and then I actually put both of them in my boiler room and let them dry completely overnight. Once they were dry, I glued the nose and the eyebrows onto the face just with some wood glue, and I clamped that together until it dried. And then I painted the whites of the eyes with a white exterior latex, and I used a black exterior latex on the Frankenstein's hair, and also on the pupils and his eyebrows. You could use a paintbrush for his mouth and his suture lines. I ended up just having a Sharpie marker, and it was just easier for me. I didn't have a real fine paintbrush, so it was easier for me to do it with the marker. I did give the entire face a coating with a clear lacquer to kind of protect it all. It's going to be an outside decoration. And then the final step was going to be to add the bolts to the bottom of the head. In hindsight, I probably should have done this earlier on, before I did all the carving. It would have been easier when that wood was still, had a flat surface to it. But basically, I just drilled a hole on each side. I went to Home Depot and picked up a couple of small bolts. I ended up inserting those and gluing them in place with a 2-part epoxy. And then, just to make them stand out a little bit better, I did end up going back and painting those bolts black. And that's basically it. A very simple, easy to do, wood carved Frankenstein face Halloween decoration. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, I ask that you please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this YouTube channel. By all means, check us out on the web at DIYEasyCrafts.com. Check out our other Halloween as well as other do-it-yourself videos. Thank you very much.